Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Imam Jafar bin Muhammad Sadiq, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi, was born on the 17th of Rabi' al-Awwal in the 80th year after Hijrah, and died on the 25th of Shawwal in the 148th year after Hijrah, regarded by many as the master of all jurisprudence and as the colossus in the world of Islamic law, and revered for his knowledge and his wisdom, his piety as well as his humility. He is seen as the master of all the teachers of Islamic knowledge. For when you look at many of the great scholars of Islamic history, many of them were students of Imam Sadiq. And you find therefore that his life requires a thorough examination. For not only does his life affect each and every one of our lives, but affects the lives of virtually every Muslim in the world today. In the idea, from the one hand, for the Imamis today call their madhab or their school the Ja'fari school, and therefore the Ja'fari school is named after him. Does this mean that he is greater than the other Imams? No, it doesn't. Rather, it means that the flourishing of Islamic knowledge occurred and the crystallization was cemented in his time. Imam al-Sadiq is like Imam al-Askari. Imam al-Sadiq is like Imam al-Jawad. Imam al-Sadiq is like Imam al-Hussein. Yet the difference in terms of their abilities with knowledge was that he had more freedom than anybody else to disseminate the knowledge. And that's why the school today is known as the Ja'fari school. Even further than this, other Muslims should also study Imam al-Sadiq as well. Remember that Imam al-Sadiq's mother, Farwa, is the daughter of Qasim, the son of Muhammad, the son of Abu Bakr. Therefore, even other schools in Islam should have a reverence for this personality in studying his life. Unfortunately, however, Imam al-Sadiq has not been given the credit that he deserves. In many cases, from after the time he passed away until today, when people name this great jurisprudence in Islamic history, they end up naming the students of Imam al-Sadiq and not the teacher himself. On many occasions, if you were to read books of fiqh today, you'll hear people saying this is the opinion of Abu Hanifa, this is the opinion of Malik ibn Anas, this is the opinion of Imam al-Shafi'i, this is the opinion of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. And unfortunately, you hardly ever hear this is the opinion of Ja'far Sadiq. From the time he passed away until today, a disservice has been done to Imam al-Sadiq to the extent that the greatest of works on Imam al-Sadiq's knowledge have been written by non-Muslims and not by Muslims. If you were to look at Islamic texts, for example, Imam al-Bukhari in his famous Sahih al-Bukhari does not narrate a single tradition from Ja'far al-Sadiq. In over thousands of narrations within Sahih al-Bukhari, there is not a single narration from Ja'far al-Sadiq. You have narrations from Imran ibn Hussein, Imran ibn Hattan, Samar ibn Jundub, Marwan ibn al-Hakam. Not one narration from Ja'far al-Sadiq. Even further than that, when 20th century writers have written about jurisprudence, they come towards jurisprudence, someone like Dr. Ahmed Amin. In his book, Duha al-Islam, he writes about Abu Hanifa, he writes about Malik, he writes about Imam al-Shafi'i, he writes about Ahmad bin Hanbal. Then he says, and I hear that Ja'far al-Sadiq also had some legal opinions, but I've never seen any of them. Or even Ahmed Atiyah has a book called, the book which looks at the whole encyclopedia and dictionary of the religion of Islam, Al-Qamus al-Islami, and within that 420 pages on Imam al-Shafi'i, and only 7 lines on Imam al-Sadiq. And at the end of those 7 lines he's written, and there was a person called Ja'far al-Sadiq, I think they call him Sadiq because he didn't lie. That's it. Nothing else. So therefore you find in Islamic history, there was a disservice to Imam Sadiq where they tried to cover up his knowledge. Why? Because they knew if people found out he was the teacher, they jumped to the teacher instead of the students. But what happened was there was more fame given to the students than the teacher. Someone says, what do you mean in Western books? Are there great works on Imam Sadiq? Eaton Kohlberg has a fantastic work on Imam Sadiq, which looks at the 400 disciples of Imam Sadiq and the works they had produced. You have a PhD at the University of Strasbourg in France, which has now been made a book called Imam Sadiq, the great Muslim scientist and philosopher. A PhD at Strasbourg University. Imam Sadiq, the great Muslim scientist and philosopher. And you find that Tabligh is selling it right now. I advise all of you to get hold of that book. Therefore, what you find when we dissect Imam Sadiq's biography, our aim is to be able to bring Imam Sadiq to the lofty position that he deserves more than any one of his students. As I said, Imam Sadiq was born in the 80th year after Hijrah, on the 17th of Rabi' al-Awwal. Therefore, he shares his birth with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You find, unfortunately, when we come for the wilada, the birth of Rasulullah, normally the lecture is only on the Prophet. I say unfortunately not because there is a problem with that. On the contrary, it's our honor to learn about Rasulullah, and to remember Rasulullah, and to honor Rasulullah. But at the same time, there should be a mention on that day for Imam Sadiq. I remember asking a group of students one day, did you celebrate the birth of the Prophet this year? All of them put their hands up and said yes. I said, did you celebrate the birth of Imam Sadiq? They said, no, unfortunately we weren't there at the event. It was on the same night. The problem is, many people know that night Rasulullah's birth, but they forget Imam Sadiq. Imam Sadiq had the honor of being born on the same day as the Prophet, on the 17th of Rabi' al-Awwal in the 80th year after Hijrah. His love of knowledge and learning first began under his grandfather, our fourth Imam. Because Imam Zayn al-Abidin was the teacher of Imam Sadiq. For us, we know Imam Sadiq was 15 when Imam Zayn al-Abidin died. Imam Sadiq was how old? 15. When Imam Zayn al-Abidin passed away. Imam Sadiq's first 15 years studied under Imam Zayn al-Abidin. He saw Imam Zayn al-Abidin write As-Sahifa As-Sajjadiyah. He saw Imam Zayn al-Abidin write Risalat al-Huquq. And in Risalat al-Huquq, there was one chapter in Risalat al-Huquq which had a profound effect on Imam Sadiq's love of teaching. In Risalat al-Huquq, Imam Zayn al-Abidin writes about the right of your teacher. And I sincerely wish more of us, when we were younger, were taught this by our parents. When we go to school, some of us are some of the most mischievous children. Would you believe some of them become speakers later on? Some of us are some of the most mischievous children you'll find. We don't know about the rights of the teacher. Had we known about the rights of the teacher, we wouldn't have given a headache to our teacher like we did. Imam Sadiq in his youth, studying under Imam Zayn al-Abidin, read the rights of the teacher according to Imam Zayn al-Abidin. And I beg all of you, those of you who have students at schools in Africa, maybe one day photocopy a page and give it to the headmaster or headmistress and say to them, this is what our leaders said are the rights of you as the teacher. Imam Zayn al-Abidin in the rights of the teacher said, the first right of your teacher in Islam is what? The first right of your teacher in Islam is that you fix your eyes towards them when they are speaking. Then you purify your heart for them when they are teaching. Number 3, you never raise your voice above your teacher. Number 4, when your teacher is answering a question, do not interrupt them. Number 5, if anyone speaks ill about your teacher behind your teacher's back, you must defend your teacher. These are 5 fundamental points. Imam Zayn al-Abidin, what was he showing? He was showing the words of his grandfather Amir al-Mu'mineen, when Amir al-Mu'mineen said, whoever taught me 1 letter has become my master. 1 letter has become my master. You find Imam Zayn al-Abidin, when he wrote Risalat al-Huquq, the right of the teacher, number one, we fix our eyes towards them. Sometimes when our teachers are speaking, we're looking another way, we're speaking on our phones, or these days texting on the Blackberries and all of these things. You find people aren't paying any attention whatsoever to the teacher. Imam says, no. Our followers focus their eyes on their teachers, and they purify their heart towards their teacher. Learning, 30% is intellect, 70% is attitude. 30% of our learning is our intellect. 70% of our learning is our attitude. If we enter class and our heart doesn't want to listen to this teacher, we'll never learn. But when you purify your heart for your teacher, it makes a difference. Number two. Number three, never raise your voice above your teacher. Some of our students today, the way they speak to their teachers is abysmal. Some of them are rude, some of them are arrogant. Then number four, do not interrupt. And then number five, if someone attacks your teacher behind the teacher's back, make sure you protect them. You find that a teacher can make or break the life of a human being. Socrates, his students loved him so much that when he was taken to prison, many were willing to sacrifice their life for him. You find, for example, Umar bin Abdul Aziz removed the cursing of Ali ibn Abi Talib because of his teacher. You find Muawiyah, son of Yazid, loved Imam Zayn al-Abidin because of his teacher. A teacher can have a great effect on the life of a human being. Therefore, Imam Sadiq had recognized the importance of teaching from Imam Zayn al-Abidin, number one. Then number two, he studied under Imam al-Baqir, his father. To the extent that Imam al-Sadiq would say, when I was 11 years of age, my father Imam al-Baqir taught me astronomy and philosophy. He taught me Greek ethics and theology. He taught me ethics and law. All of these subjects Imam al-Sadiq managed to study under Imam al-Baqir. Therefore, from a young age, Imam al-Sadiq had a love for learning. He had a love to earn his knowledge, to save his knowledge, to better himself with his knowledge, and then to be able to spread his knowledge. And do you know what helped him spread his knowledge? There was a struggle for power in the Islamic empire. Imam al-Sadiq, what did he decide to do? He could see Banu Abbas had come into power. And do you know what type of people were leading the Islamic state? Wallah, if you read their lives, you'd think, oh Bani Umayyah, come back, come back. There was no change. All it was a change of personnel, that's it. Al-Mansur al-Dawaniqi comes in. Do you know what the difference is between Al-Mansur and Bani Umayyah? Bani Umayyah, at least they would spend on the Muslims, but they'd spend extravagantly. Al-Mansur al-Dawaniqi was the stingiest Khalifa in 1,400 years of Islam. You think Mansur spends? Mansur, if the world turned upside down, would not spend. Mansur al-Dawaniqi, do you know how stingy he was? The only time he'd give money to the poor is if you recited a piece of poetry which no one has ever heard. If you recite a piece of poetry which no one has heard, Mansur will give you what? He'll give you money the weight of the paper you wrote the poetry on. When I write poetry on a piece of paper, how much is the paper going to weigh, honestly? Mansur, what would he do? He'd say to the people, oh people, I am your Khalifa, not Jafar Sadiq. Leave Jafar Sadiq, come to me. And I will give you money. The people would come to his courtroom. He'd say, I only give you money if you recite poetry for me. But if that poetry has never been heard before, I will give you money. If it has been heard before, you will not get anything. And if it's never been heard before, I will give you the weight of the paper you wrote it on. Do you know how stingy he was? Forget that. He hid two people behind the curtain. These two were hiding behind a curtain. They were specialists in Arabic grammar. They could memorize poetry straight away. So even if you recited a new poem, those two would come out. Mansur would say, okay, that was a good poem. Let's see if anyone here has heard it. You two, I've never met you before, tell me. Even though he's planned it with them before, that make sure you memorize. One day Al-Asma'i came to Al-Mansur. Al-Asma'i came, he said, I've come, oh Khalifa, because I want some donation. Al-Mansur said, very good, recite poetry, and if we've never heard it, we'll give you the weight of the paper that the poem was written on. Al-Asma'i said, are you ready? Mansour said yes. He looked at the two of them. He said, are you two ready? Yes. Okay, go ahead, go ahead. Al-Asma'i began to recite words where he used the most difficult words in the Arabic language and he twisted them. You know, words like this. Mansour's looking at him thinking, I've never ever heard a human being say words like this. What's going on? So he looked at the two of them and the two of them were like. So Mansour said, very well, you've done well. Give me the paper you wrote it on. He said, I didn't write it on a piece of paper. He said, then what? He said, I wrote it on that big black rock over there. That day Mansour never slept, by the way. Because that big black rock, if you weighed it, Mansour nearly lost his whole khilafah that night. Imam Sadiq saw this Mansour. Imam Sadiq could see Mansour had to establish his position. Imam Sadiq thought, let me not get in a slanging match with him. Let me focus on teaching the school of Ahlulbayt to the people. Al-Mansur at the beginning was not happy that Imam Sadiq teaches. It wasn't easy for Mansour. Mansour was one day sitting in his royal box in Hajj. He wanted to get to Hajar al-Aswad. He couldn't get there. The Baramaki family were on one side. Al-Rabi' was on the other. Al-Mansur wanted to get to Hajar al-Aswad. He didn't get there. He saw someone walk towards Hajar al-Aswad. Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Hajar al-Aswad has a love for Ahlul Bayt. Honestly. That when they walk towards Hajar al-Aswad, it opens for them. You find Al-Mansur turned around to the person next to him. He said, who's that who's walking there? The person next to him said, he is the God of the people of Iraq. Mansour said to him, what do you mean? He said, they call him Ja'far ibn Muhammad. They say he is a Sadiq. And they say that he is a man of piety. Mansour said, that's interesting. I've never met this man before. What the narrations say to us is, all of a sudden a person came to Mansour and said to him, we have a case of law we don't know how to answer. And Mansour said, what is it? They said, we found a body which is dead. We want to know what the blood money is for this body and how much is to be paid to the inheritors, because we don't know who the inheritors are. Al-Mansur said, I don't know how to answer this question. You guys are the people of knowledge. Tell me. So they looked at each other and said, we don't know. He said, who would know? They said, Ja'far bin Muhammad would know. So he said, call him. So Imam Sadiq came. Mansour looked at him. He said, I hear that you're a man of knowledge. Imam Sadiq said, I am not of the ignorant. Tell me. He said, we found a dead body and the head has been severed. What's the blood money? Imam Sadiq said, 100 dinar. He said, how did you answer that quickly? How do you know? He said, because the Quran says that there are 5 stages in the life of the human being. There is the stage of nutfa, and the stage of the mughda, and the stage of idam, and the stage of death. And he mentioned each of the stages. He said, because there are 5 stages there, that means 20 dinar each stage until death, 100 dinar. He said to him, how about the inheritance? How much do the inheritors get? What do we do? He said, if there are no inheritors, you pay the money as sadaqah. He said, very good. Mansour looked at the people around him. He said, would you have been able to answer like Jafar Sadiq? They said, no. He said, this man's knowledge must be something else. He noticed Imam Sadiq had a stick. This stick the Prophet gave to Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, who gave to Imam al-Hassan, who gave to Imam al-Hussein, who gave to Imam Zain al-Abidin, who gave to Imam al-Baqir, gave to Imam al-Sadiq. Mansour said to Imam al-Sadiq, he said to him, I want that stick. Imam al-Sadiq said, very well, here, take the stick. Mansour looked at him and he said, you gave it to me very easily. He said, if these are the things you care of in life, then have them. Mansour said to him, I will allow you to teach because you're a man of knowledge, but you cannot teach near me. Go to Kufa and teach over there. That was the biggest mistake Mansour did. Because when he allowed Imam al-Sadiq to move to Kufa, how many of you have been to Masjid al-Kufa? In Masjid al-Kufa, Imam al-Sadiq reignited the school of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen in Masjid al-Kufa. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen used to teach in Masjid al-Kufa. For many years, no one had taught there. Imam Sadiq went to begin his classes, do you know how many circles, halaqat, do you know how many circles of classes were in Masjid al-Kufa when Imam Sadiq was there? 900 circles of classes. And each teacher would say, I heard from Ja'far ibn Muhammad. I heard from Ja'far ibn Muhammad. Do you know what the first thing he did as a teacher? Before he taught, first he practiced what he preached. You can teach, but if you don't practice what you preach, no one will listen to you. Imam Sadiq on the Monday, he would say, love for others what you would love for yourself. On the Tuesday he would say, oppose the oppressor and support the oppressed. On the Wednesday he would say, we the Ahlulbayt do not take back that which we have given. On the Thursday he would enter the mosque, and there would be a man in that mosque. Mu'alla bin Khunais narrates, I saw a man in that mosque. The narration says that that man had 1,000 gold coins next to him. When he finished the salah, he looked around, there were no more gold coins. He got angry. Where's my gold coins? There was no one in the mosque except Imam Sadiq had just walked in. When Imam Sadiq walked in, that man looked at him and he said, you're the one who took my gold coins. Imam Sadiq looked at him and he said, I promise you, my brother, it is not me. It must have been someone else. He said, no, it is you. The coins were here. You're the only one in this mosque. Imam Sadiq said, brother, I'm telling you it's not me. But if you need those gold coins urgently, I will arrange for them to be given to you. Imam Sadiq the day before had said, we the Ahlulbayt do not take back that which we have given away. When Imam Sadiq turned to someone, he said, can you get me 1,000 gold coins? The person said yes. He bought 1,000 gold coins, he gave it to the person. The man said, thank you, now leave me. You people steal from Muslims. He walked out of the mosque. As he walked out, he saw a bag with his 1,000 gold coins on the door of the mosque. He came running back to the Imam, and as he was running back, he asked someone, who's that man? They said to him, Ja'far ibn Muhammad. He said, which Ja'far ibn Muhammad? Because there were two at the time. He said, Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq? He said, yes. He came to Imam as-Sadiq, he said, I beg you forgive me. I did not know it was you, and I was wrong to accuse you. And now I found my bag at the door of the mosque. Here is your 1,000 gold coins. Imam said, us the Ahlul Bayt do not take back that which we gave away. The aspect was what? The first aspect of him as a teacher, before we discuss his students, the first aspect was, he practiced that which he preached. Today we have teachers who tell the community remain united, whereas they are the cause of disunity. Today we have teachers who tell people do not abuse other Muslims, whereas they are the cause of abuse. Imam Sadiq's success first, before you discuss his students, was that he practiced what he preached.